Some of these incidences were kind of downplayed as mishaps or characterized merely as bad smells, when actuality, they were health emergencies for hundreds of people, causing them to have to evacuate their homes, to seek medical care, or for many that could not leave, just sort of remain in place and suffer. The other thing that came about that I was not expecting was the extent of the ongoing need. There are still entire neighborhoods where people are suffering outstanding health issues, where people have no choice but to use the contaminated water in their cistern. And they've called without any kind of answer or visit or help. So to echo David's concerns, we strongly encourage the EPA, the Department of Health, DPNR, OSHA, ATSDR, and any other relevant agencies to use their resources to respond and provide assistance to those people in need that have not been able to find true relief. We also hope that the bankruptcy declaration this week will not release the refinery from their responsibility for this impact. And finally, I would strongly encourage community members to join us for a listening session tomorrow, July 15th at 6 p.m. This is a virtual event on Zoom. You can register on Eventbrite. I will put that registration information in the chat. This is an opportunity to share your thoughts on the survey results, share your own experiences, and make recommendations and ask questions. As Sommer mentioned, if we've learned anything from this effort, is that everyone's experience is relevant and deserves to be heard. So thank you, and I will pass it on to Frandelle next.
Thank you all. And I want to give a shout out to the community associations in Estate Profit, who came out in a big way to support and go door to door in that community doing the survey. Special thanks to our translator who got the document translated into Spanish, Senator Sommer Sibilly-Brown, and to all those people who trusted us enough to stop and listen, and then to share what for some was very personal, intimate information about what's happened in their neighborhood, in their household, with their families. And just to assuage the feelings, a lot of the people I personally encountered had worked at Hovensa or Hess Oil, and had worked or were working at Limetree at the time of these incidences. And although some felt that we were biased in what we were asking, they still stopped, answered the survey, and gave us some really interesting side note information. So this is not a simple exercise. This is just the first step. And we hope that as we move forward, that the public sector partners and regulatory agencies will step up and do a much broader survey, get their boots on the ground, go into these affected neighborhoods, and more importantly, bring relief in the ways of remediation of the environmental damage that's been done to people's property, and relief in terms of the remediation and assistance for the health impacts. With that, I guess we can open up to see if anyone has any questions. If you do, please raise your hand. I saw one in the chat earlier that asked what were the processes for necessary steps to have a site declared as a Superfund and have these processes begun. Quick response is that the request is now being made by us to have that formal request made. It has to be done by our public leaders. And
Frandelle, if I can jump in, the most straightforward way to get a site considered for listing on the federal Superfund site would be for the governor and congressional delegate Stacey Plaskett to formally recommend it be considered for inclusion on the federal Superfund list. And that designation will immediately make available resources to start cleaning up the mess and authority to get a real investigation into the extent of the contamination from that site. Other routes often wait years, if not decades, for courts to determine who's liable for what before they release resources to clean it up. Superfund front loads the cleanup and then sorts out who's going to pay for it as the cleanup is underway. It's essential that Superfund be the priority.
thank you. Are there any other questions? I'm looking, I don't see any hands raised.
Kimberly Mills has one.
Yep.
Yeah, Frandelle, hi. That was my first question. Thank you for answering it. And just a follow-up question. It seems like if, based on what Professor Bond indicated, the governor and the delegate, has anybody on this team considered a change.org petition? Because it seems like that's something that not only local residents, but could probably get a lot of national and possibly international support for an effort such as that, change.org, to petition the governor and the delegate to make that happen.
Great, thank you for that recommendation, and we'll review it as part of our next steps. Are you seeing any other requests? Thanks for that, Kimberly. Peter, do you want to unmute and ask the question, or just should I read it from the chat?
Good morning, everybody. I am just curious if we know where Representative Plaskett stands on the Superfund possibility, if anybody's having a conversation with her, and how we might begin going about that.
I don't know, but I think it's a great question to raise with her office.
And we've only had one preliminary meeting. She's really interested in getting this information. And the reason we're doing it this way, and then tomorrow with a public listening session, just for clarification, is we promised the community they would get the first access to this information. We are now then going to schedule meetings with the regulatory bodies and our elected officials, including Delegate Plaskett and the governor and others. But first, we're releasing publicly. We want to be as transparent as we can, and we want to be certain that those people who have participated and are most keenly affected by the incidences have equal access to the information.
And both Delegate Plaskett and Governor Bryan's office have both individually have offered to meet with us once we have the results. And so we're scheduling those meetings now, along with other leaders, to provide this information and give them our sense of the policy recommendations, which are three. One, this should be at the top of Joe Biden's list of sites for environmental justice. It's the biggest environmental injustice unfolding in the US right now, and it should be at the very top of the list for places to showcase this administration's commitment to changing, to bringing needed change to overburdened communities of color and beginning to invest in climate resilience. This should be number one. Straightforward. Calling on EPA to bring immediate assistance to all of the hundreds of households that have faced these dire impacts that are still unacknowledged. and step in and launch a comprehensive, full civil and criminal investigation into what went wrong. And 3, list the site as a Superfund. So you'll be hearing us on those 3 points on repeat for the next few weeks with all of the sort of leaders we are meeting with locally and nationally.
And just so we don't overlook, Mr. Francois asked the question, what agency is responsible for the Superfund? And in the chat, there's a link to the EPA.gov Superfund site. It's the EPA that has the lead responsibility for the declaration of a site as a Superfund site. I don't want to miss anyone. Are there any other questions that we need to address?
Only that I also want to say that, so yes, on June 15th, which is Thursday, we have a listening session, and that's focused on community voice. We really will be listening. There'll be a short presentation, again, around the impacts. And then it's an opportunity for residents to talk to each other and to talk with us about these experiences and about what survey results mean. And then on July 29th, we will be hosting the last town hall in the series, which really is about what's next, right? What are the possible visions if we had access to Superfund site? I mean, David referenced, like, how can we remediate that property should that happen for us? What good paying jobs that are environmentally sound but create good economics? And that's that, like, what does the marriage of those things look like for Virgin Islanders? What do they want? What do we feel is important to be considered as next steps? And so I just wanted to plug that Thursday's a listening session so we can actually hear each other and be present with each other and keep this conversation rooted in community. And then on the 29th, there's a whole other thing happening around what are our possibilities, because there's also a need, like, we are in the middle, like, of what we named is a crisis. It's another disaster. And we also need to be looking towards how we build what's next, how we build critical mass in this community towards a positive, balanced, environmentally friendly, economically sound St. Croix.
Well, on that note, I think we will now close out. We invite you all once again to go to www.eventbrite.com/e/community-limetree-impacts-on-health and environment to get your ticket, or you can just check the Chant Facebook page or St. Croix Environmental Facebook page, or is Good Food Coalition on Facebook? Yes, VI Good Food. We've all shared that post so that you can register for tomorrow's listening session. And we thank you for your continued attention and interest and support as we go forward on this road to recovery and restorative justice for the people of St. Croix, the land and to a better, brighter future. So thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.